Hello, how are you? Well, I am feeling I am at the top of the rainbow right now. I feel just over the moon. Somebody posted a picture from Twitter, and it almost made me wish that I was back on Twitter. It almost made me miss Twitter. It's amazing. Let's take a look. I feel like we should talk about it. When you think about it, units of measurement are pernicious and harmful bullshit which never should have been invented, and any proper communist movement should seek to abolish them. That is, wow, what an amazing thing. Only on Twitter and Tumblr will you get such a huge galaxy brain take. Just to reiterate, units of measurement are pernicious, so they do damage subtly over time, and harmful bullshit which should never have been invented. Any proper communist movement should seek to abolish them. So if you have a communist movement and they still have things like, inches, I guess it's not a proper communist movement. Man, I love this so much. Let's keep going. Like, the act of measurement itself is an inherent problem. It is the transformation of the subjective into the objective, and that's a path with horrible results we should avoid. Lengths of time, temperature, distance, volume, etc. All of these are subjective experiences, not objective things which can be reduced to objective measures. Before we go any further, what exactly does objective mean? Well, the definition that I generally use is that objective means that it's not influenced by personal feelings or opinion in considering and representing facts. I value objectivity a great deal. I think it's very, very important for humanity. It's how we do things like science, mathematics, medicine. It's our ability to take away our personal feelings, our personal biases away from something and look at the world as it really is and use that information to learn more about the world and to sculpt it to our choosing. It is imperative for any society that you are able to be objective. If you are an architect, then you have to factor a great deal of objectivity into your building designs. What is the weight of this amount of granite, and how much can it support? How much can we put here? What is the integrity of the structure that I'm trying to build? If you are an engineer, how do we make this bridge support this kind of weight using these kinds of materials? If you're a biologist, you use objectivity to describe what you see in the world around you. You take away your personal bias and feelings, and you simply find out what the data is of whatever it is you're studying. This goes for practically every single field. In your head, you can probably think of a dozen examples instantly of how objectivity is important in the field of medicine. Because cancer doesn't really give a shit about how you feel. And how you feel about polio and vaccines doesn't change what they actually do. But this person is saying that it is pernicious and harmful. Units of measurement are pernicious and harmful. Now, a lot of you might be racking your brains wondering if there was ever a point in your life where you felt or were actually harmed by the fact that we have used language to objectively quantify pretty much any measurement. Time, temperature, distance, volume, etc., blah, blah, blah. Even if you had no concept of objectivity, even if you didn't understand that there were words that we use to assign to these things, it wouldn't have anything to do with what the effects of it would be on you. You're going to grow old regardless of your understanding of years and minutes and days and hours. You will not be able to reach something if objectively you are simply not long enough or not tall enough to reach something. These are just facts of reality. By removing objective units of measurement from a society, you will not be enabled and empowered to do anything that is really meaningful. It might, maybe, if you are delusional enough, allow you to feel kind of better in a moment if you have the interesting idea in your head that units of measurements are oppressive. And if you are a communist, right, if you're a Twitter communist, then of course the entire world is framed from you are either an oppressor or you are being oppressed. It is the eternal dichotomy from which we must wage war. We get this a lot on EFAP, my podcast with Mahler. When you tell people that something is objective, which essentially means that it's true, it corresponds to reality, essentially. It is necessarily, by its definition and what it is, unconcerned with how you feel. You can't make an emotionally based argument, a feelings-based argument, or even a moral-based argument when you're talking about objective things like length and distance. Regardless of how it makes you feel, there's still 12 inches in a foot. Regardless of your personal moral stance on the subject, 12 inches, still a foot. And it's this objectivity that we have in links that make it so useful. No matter who you are, where you're from, what language you speak, what your gender is, what your race is, man, anything. 12 inches is always a foot. These are objective measurements. We have said that an inch is this amount of distance, and 12 of these make up this amount of distance, and we'll assign a name to that. And this is a universal title that we can use that allow us to do things like, build civilization. Numbers are constructs that we use to essentially put words and put symbols onto amounts. We use these words so we can convey to other people that a certain length or volume or distance or temperature exists. I mean, of the proper communist movement, how would you know how hot it is outside? You would just say, oh, I guess it feels hot. I guess it feels cold. I guess it feels pleasant. How hot is it? You can't have those. You can't assign an objective measurement to how you subjectively feel about the temperature. That would be oppressive. That would make people upset. Who are you to tell me that it's 94 degrees Fahrenheit outside? I don't want to feel like it is hot, or I don't feel like it's really that scorching. Imagine the weather forecast. Not that you could have like television or any technology without objective measurement, where the weatherman just says, oh yeah, tomorrow it'll be sort of wet, it'll be kind of hot, the day after that it'll be kind of hot, but I mean, not really, it's just whatever you feel, I guess. Will it be windy on those days? I sort of, I guess, but I mean, don't take my word for it, it just is whatever you want to feel about it, whether it's windy or not. Imagine trying to find out how tall or how short you were. Now, tall and short are obviously relative, but we use things like a 6'5" human male. That's tall, right? A 5'5" human male. That's kind of short because we use short and tall generally without even having to say it to equate it to on average how tall a human being is. That's why if someone says, wow, I'm 7 foot tall, you're like, oh, wow, that is tall. In fact, that's why we even say, as I did there without even thinking, 7 feet tall. You're not 7 feet short. I'm rambling. This is just so insane. But imagine a proper communist movement, a movement where you're not supposed to use units of measurement. How would you organize everything? How would you set dates? You can't set dates because dates are a human invention that we use to measure the progress of time. You can't say how many will be there because amounts, we use numbers as a unit of measurement for those amounts. And of course, don't even get me started on what time of day it will begin on whatever day you choose. Imagine trying to use no units of measurement at all to organize anything. And if you can't organize anything, it seems like an odd kind of communist movement that doesn't have any organization. How often do we hear the Twitter, socialist Twitter, feminist Twitter, blah, 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 talking about the evils of capitalism and the evils of modern society? And they never stop to think, maybe the reason we got this far is because we had certain things. And that's not to say that we can't improve on things, but man, the concept that we should do away and abolish a unit of measurement. Now, I wonder what the penalty would be for saying things like, I don't know, saying that, yeah, I'm 5 feet 10 inches tall, or I got a 7-inch dick, or anything like that. What would the punishment be for using an objective measurement? Who would the victim be? I guess the victim would be the fact that in the second tweet here, it's the transformation of the subjective into the objective. Now, distances are not subjective things. Distances are objective. The units of measurement that we use and assign to those real-world distances, those are all objective still. Whether you think that, I don't know, 5 miles is a long way or just a short distance, the actual space between the beginning point and the end point, between you and that thing 5 miles away, it's still a distance of 5 miles. That distance doesn't give a shit what you personally think about it. It's still 5 miles long. It is 5 units of 5,280 feet. You might say, but miles are a human invention. That's correct. But they're still objective. You could call them anything you wanted. You can call them flurble-schnargs or dingle-dongs. It doesn't matter. You could use any word and create any word you want to objectively create a unit of measurement that describes an objective distance. The entire basis of all the sciences, essentially, and even an untold amount of time in colloquial usage, do we use units of measurement. I say that it would be practically impossible to form a society without the use of these things. These are just a bunch of hippie-type communists who don't think that I guess they see this as mastery over the natural world, to just say, yeah, this is how long an inch is, this is how long a foot is, this is how long a mile is, and all right, guys, we're all gonna agree, right? We're all gonna agree that this is how long an inch is, and this is how long a foot is, and this is how long a mile is. All right, guys? So whenever I say inch, it means this long. Forever, okay? Good. Now, okay, good. Imagine you go to Amazon because you need a power cable for your computer, right? But you don't get to know how long the power cable is. It's just, it's sort of long, but not really. Long, short, it's all subjective, really. Obviously not everything has to be measured precisely. For instance, how hungry you are. Right now, I guess you could say I'm a little peckish right now. I could use myself a little snack. But if somebody says, dear God, I am starving, I am famished, I feel like I could eat an elephant, then yeah, I think we could tell the difference between those two pretty clearly without having to get exact. Now, time is relative, of course, but things like distances? No, a foot is always a foot. It's not a subjective experience that a foot is 12 inches. A foot is the same distance for everything and always and forever. Even if all sentient life in the cosmos was to just vanish, a foot would still be a foot. That distance would still be a foot. That distance would still exist. A gallon jar, right? I've got one right over there. I used to make tea in. That gallon jar, if I was to disappear, if all the sentient life in the cosmos disappeared, that jar would still hold a gallon. Because a gallon is what we use as a word to describe volume. Now, in the middle, of course, there's pronouns in this person's bio, they, them, whatever. They say that this is a path, the transformation of the subjective into the objective. That's a path with horrible results we should avoid. Horrible results like, sometimes people could abuse science to do terrible things. Yeah, sure, people can create Zyklon B and tear gas and I don't know, nuclear bombs. Yeah, sure. Units of objective measurement don't care about evil and good and morality and the well-being of people. They are amoral concepts. They have nothing to do with that. They can be used for whatever purpose anybody wants them to. Maybe that's this person's problem. The fact that units of measurement are removed from morality. They are removed from politics. As a result, if we can't use it for our purposes, but people we don't like politically can use it for their purposes, or people can do immoral things using information that's available because we have units of measurement, I guess that's the point here. Science created the cure for polio and also created the atom bomb. This is not an issue of science, it's an issue with people. We want to create a world where more and more people are encouraged to do things for the good of themselves and the good of other people. Obviously, it's not that simple. Morality is an extremely complicated concept, one that we're probably never ever going to find out or solve. You can do your best to use morality in an objective viewpoint with set goals and using observations about how actions affect the well-being of people, for instance, to decide whether or not something is or isn't moral. But it's a complicated conversation. Maybe the solution to morality is for everybody to find an objective standard by which to judge it. But let us consider the alternative. Imagine a world where there are no units of measurement. Most of you probably wouldn't be here because we would not have probably been able to build a society like this in any way. Everything is just whatever it is. How many bricks do we need? Oh, you can't use numbers. That's a unit of measurement. How do we cure this disease? How do we decide who gets what food? How do we divvy up our resources, right? Especially if you're a proper communist movement and you want to pool everything together and redistribute it to everyone else or whatever system you want. How do you determine who gets what if you can't use units of measurement? How much food do I get? I can't say because it's a unit of measurement. How many people are there to divvy it up amongst? You can't say that. Does literally everything have to be purely conceptual? Unfortunately, not everything is conceptual. Things exist in the real world. Objects are real. You can manipulate them. You could learn about their properties. You can, dare I say it, objectively quantify the properties that they have, their dimensions, how hot it is, how long it has existed, how far away it is from you. All of these things are very, very important things. Using the stars to navigate, you can't do that. Baking chocolate chip cookies, you can't do that. As I read on Reddit, someone used that as an example. If you want to bake a bunch of chocolate chip cookies, how much dough do you mix with the water? And do you use eggs? If so, how many? How long do you bake it for? What temperature? It is nuts. And these people are insane. And they should be kept far, far away from the government, I think. The scientific method relies on our ability to stay as objective as possible. It isn't perfect, right? Because humans aren't perfect. But we use the scientific method to remove the biases that we have as people. That's why it doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter what gender you are. It doesn't matter what country you're from. It doesn't matter what language you use. Science works the same way for everyone because it's a process. One that removes itself from the biases, I guess, of humanity. That's why it works so well. That's why it does things like invent indoor plumbing, and why it flies us to the moon. It's why we have internet. It's why we have computers. It's why we have the Twitter that you're using to bitch about how pernicious and harmful units of measurement are. I mean, like, imagine you're living in the proper communist utopia. What time do you go to work? I don't know. What time do you stop working? I guess when I just feel like it. I guess it's just whatever I feel like. Whatever I feel like just determines what we want to do, I guess. Maybe I don't feel like going to work today. Or tomorrow. Maybe you just don't feel like going to work. Maybe, you can't even have a schedule. It's insane. It's actually insane. Whenever someone says you can't be objective, just say, oh yeah, what about mathematics? What about science? The only reason these things work and continue to work and produce reliable results is because we can be objective. We don't always succeed at it, obviously. But being able to be objective is critical to the formation of a civilization and just living your daily life. I know you want to live with your head in the clouds, with your communist utopia dream world, and you don't want to work, and you don't want to do stuff, and you don't want to be productive. I know it sucks, the real world. Well, the real world is still real, whether you like it or not. And you're just going to have to get over it. You're going to have to come to terms with the fact that the real world exists. And its impact on you doesn't give a damn about how you feel about it. I don't know, maybe we're just all going to go live in the woods and bang rocks together and use mud bricks to build shitty houses and die of malaria at the ripe old age of 32. And the women will rule the world because it is an oppressive patriarchal concept, this unit of measurement idea. The evils of objectivity. I don't know. Just thought I'd have a ramble. Thought I'd have a rant. Thought I'd just chat shit a bit while I work on the next video. Welcome to Clown World, everybody. Welcome to the bizarro universe we live in. Units of measurement are harmful bullshit. Shouldn't have ever been invented. Rip society. But hey, this is your brain on socialism, kids.